o'clock. Okay, I'll start over. It's 5 o'clock. I'd like to call the Thursday, May 15th, 2025 meeting of the City of Pleasant Hill Architectural Review Commission to order. I would say let's do the roll call, but we have someone who stepped out very quickly.
Well, we can do the roll call now and I can adjust.
Okay, then let's do the roll call.
All right, Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Patari,
Here.
Chair Johansson. And I have for the record, Commissioner Weir is absent and Commissioner Kapoor is, yeah, there she is. She's here.
All right. Before we move on to public comment, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Back.
Which is stands, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And here's Commissioner Weir.
Yes, thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is public comment. So this is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the commission on an item that is under the commission's purview, but is not on tonight's agenda. So is there anyone here who would like to discuss something that isn't on the agenda? All right, seeing no one, we will move on to the minutes. Acceptance of the minutes from our last meeting, which was March 6th, 2025. Wow. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Kapoor, Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Patari,
Yes.
Commissioner Weir,
Yes.
and Chair Johansson.
Yes.
All right. Next item on the agenda is our first public hearing, item 5.1, Vincent New Single Family Home, application number ENT 2024-0041, 20 Donkey Flats Court.
And I'm going to be recusing myself from this site.
All right, thank you. Then I'll turn it over to staff for a presentation.
Thank you, Vice Chair Nelson and the Commission. Let me just see if I can get my pointer to work here. Okay, this project, quick project description. It's a vacant site on the south side of Donkey Flats Court, which is located off of Butner Road. And the project applicant is proposing to construct a new single-story home on the vacant lot. The home would have just over 2,000 square feet of interior floor area, as well as a covered front porch and covered rear porch, as well as a 576 square foot detached garage. The project would also include a new driveway and landscaping in the front yard, removal of one valley oak tree to accommodate that detached garage. And in addition to all this, the applicant is requesting Planning Commission review of an associated minor exception to allow a encroachment into the front yard setback requirement. Since this project is going to end up at the Planning Commission, staff is asking the ARC to make a recommendation on the architectural review permit and tree removal permit to the Planning Commission this evening. Here's a high up look, aerial look at the site. I've circled the site property boundaries in yellow. You can see the red tag there. Again, that's Donkey Flats Court, access via Butner from Grayson Road. Taking a closer look, you can see that the parcel is landlocked, if you will, and it enjoys a vehicle access easement from Donkey Flats over the neighboring properties. That's about a 56-foot long easement that slopes downward to the site The site is relatively flat, though it does have a downward slope from north to south, where Grayson Creek runs along the southern property border. Here's a picture of the easement from Donkey Flats. That fence you see there in the picture is the fence around the neighboring property. That would be the one to the north of their site. And that house on the western side would be the house just off of the right-hand side of this image. And there's a better shot of that house on 30 Donkey Flats Court. Here's a home at the corner of Donkey Flats and Butner, also adjacent to the subject property, and another home south of that on Butner Road that's also an adjacent property. The existing site plan is shown here. The applicant had to deal with a number of different site conditions when coming up with the site plan for the house. There was previously a pool constructed on the site that will be removed, but there is adjoining a part of the northern property boundary and then running directly from north to south through the property is a drainage easement. So that prohibits the property owner from building or placing the home or garage within that area. There are numerous mature protected trees throughout the site, as well as Grayson Creek along the southern property boundary that all presented challenges and different setbacks. The property owner was able to come up with this site placement, which respects the easements, the setbacks, as well as the creek setback on the southern side. You can see the detached garage. Does the highlighter work on here? No. So there's a detached garage on the left-hand side, and then you can see the primary home centrally located on the parcel. When adding in the landscape elements, the site becomes a little easier to read. You can see the driveway coming down from the easement to the foot of the garage. The front of the home with the front door and the front porch is actually oriented towards the western side of the property. Although technically the northern side is the front yard, since that is the property boundary where the easement comes into the property. The applicant will be adding in a number of different flowering plants to mix in with some existing moss rock that are found throughout the property, and using mulch and wood chips to fill in the rest of the area. Here's a look at the floor plan. It's a barn style house, if you will, with a large, tall, open floor plan for the main living area. And then bedrooms flank that main living area on the right hand and on left-hand side as well. The roof plan is pretty straightforward. There's 2 barn dormers that give clear story window access to that large interior space. Here's a few 3D elevations of the house showing all different sides and different views of the home. And some colored renderings that were provided as well. These show the colors, the materials very well. The house is board and batten siding, painted with a dark charcoal gray. It has a veneer flagstone wainscoting around all 4 sides, both the home and the garage, up to the bottom sill height of the windows there. And the wood porch, wood doors add a nice accent against that darker gray body color. And all the windows are clad with, I believe it's black aluminum clad windows, yeah. And with that, staff recommends that the ARC review the project, receive public testimony, accept the CEQA exemption, and recommend approval of the architectural review permit and associated tree removal permit to the Planning Commission with the staff recommended conditions of approval and any additional conditions provided by the commission this evening. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Just some questions on the siding color. Is that the only, I mean, was there a specific reason for going with a darker color, or did they present a couple of other options or it was something that the owner was felt very strongly about?
Yeah, the owner presented this color to us.
Okay.
No other alternate colors. There is a color material board there if you'd like to take a look at the physical samples and color samples right there in front of Commissioner Kapoor. There's 2 separate boards. Please pass those around too as well. And the applicant might also be able to respond to that question.
No, just curious, why the darker colors on the exterior?
My understanding, it's a contemporary color that you'll see from time to time. The applicant might have a little more backstory for you.
Can you point out the location of the tree that they're removing? Just-
Sure.
And are they planning to replace it or add any other trees?
Yes, so the project has been conditioned to provide 2 replacement trees because it's a removal of a protected native oak species. They haven't proposed those 2 replacement trees yet. So staff could review that replacement as soon as their entitlement is approved. Let me go back to our site plan here. So actually highlighted it with a yellow box on the lower left-hand side. You see there's a notation, tree to be removed, and then it points to a tree near the bottom of that gravel driveway. I can come up and point to it as well. You got it? Okay.
And what's the diameter and condition of the tree?
The condition of the tree, the condition of the tree, so they did provide an arborist report. The diameter, I believe, was around 19 to 24 inches. And the condition of the tree was relatively healthy. Unfortunately, given the site conditions, we couldn't determine there was any practical alternative for locating the garage. They're dealing with a 25-foot front setback from that northern property boundary. And so this is actually located in their side yard. And they deal with the creek setback on the southern side.
One of the reasons to approve a variance, though, is site conditions. And so, well, maybe I should save this question for the applicant.
Mhm.
I'll save it. Does anyone else have questions before the applicant has their chance to speak? Okay, then if the applicant or someone representing the applicant is here, the property owner, anyone would like to come up, this is your opportunity.
Randy Vincent, I'm actually going to be short because I'm getting over laryngitis. It's kind of hard to talk. As Andrew said, that part of our issue with the site condition was fitting it into the setback parameters. The reason for the minor variance request is the bump out of the bathroom in order to make the master bathroom a typical master bathroom, which has space in it. We needed to bump that front corner out to add the shower and toilet room area. Otherwise, if we did it up front of the house or to the rear of the house, we would have to move the house several feet back to the west, or east side of the property, which would then cause us to have to remove 2 more valley oaks because insurance wouldn't write for the trees being that close to the house. The goal was to not get rid of any trees, but unfortunately, because of the site parameters, the area where the garage is being placed is really the only place we can place the required garage, and it requires a removal of that 1 tree to do so. The goal right now is we were kind of waiting to determine where to put 2 new trees until we kind of got through this process. And that just recently happened. So the idea for us is, can you go back to the site plan? Sure. If you look at the site plan, behind the house where the old pool was, there will be a water drainage area, but in that top right corner area is where we're planning to put the 2 trees. Excuse me. We spoke to the neighbor at 10 Donkey Flats that would go along that northern line, and they're in accordance with us putting trees there because it will help provide shade to their backyard as well, eventually as the tree matures. And I also have a letter from them if needed that is in support of the variance. It has no concerns that it's too close to their property line or outside. Again, that is a 25-foot setback. That variance leaves it to be about a 21-something foot setback from their fence line. And so I think that's how, oh, you had a question, Mr. Nelson?
I did, maybe it's really for you and staff. If any consideration was given to a variance to pushing the house farther north and encroaching in that setback area, since it was already disturbed with a pool previously, in order to provide room to put the garage over here to not require the tree to be removed. Because findings for a variance are, have to do, one of the findings has to do with site conditions. And it seems like making use of an already disturbed area to avoid removing the tree seems like something that should have been explored.
Our problem, as I see it, and I'm not an engineer, so, is even if we moved in closer to that northern barrier, I believe we'd still have to be 15 feet at minimum from the neighbor's property line, and that only gives us 10 or so feet to fit that garage in there to not encroach on the creek side. If we're talking about building it attached to the house on the creek side, it's still going to go over the creek side line.
As designed.
Commissioner Nelson, if I could step in. So our tree preservation ordinance does allow for the removal of the tree if an applicant can meet certain criteria, one of which includes that there is an intention to develop the property and there's no practical alternative, if you will, to the tree removal. Staff might find that the removing of the tree and placing the garage in the side yard setback is less impactful than it would be putting it in the front yard compared to removal of a tree. So whether a variance would be supported or not is unknown at this point. A variance really, the first finding speaks to site characteristics that prohibit or prevent an applicant from developing their site in a way that their neighbors can. So it's unsure if that would really apply in this situation or be supported by the planning commission.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you can't, neither of you can predict whether a variance would be approved, but if I were on the planning commission, I would ask this question, right? Why wasn't something else explored when there is an avenue for relief of setback requirements to, for example, save, an oak tree? So I'm not going to press it any further at the moment. Just, it was a question. And as I said, and can't just slapping it on the side, it being the garage. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I kind of interjected as designed, because you move into the setback, you have more space. Maybe the design is different in that case. So sure, maybe, saying, well, if it were just moved to the side and you shift it over, it would still be a problem, or there wouldn't be enough room, but maybe the design of the house, other parts of the house would be different.
To be quite honest with you, there was a lot of discussion with our designers, our builders, my wife and I, prior to this design. We probably drew up 15 different designs. Once we got into what we thought would fit and work, having to go back and having it redesigned is going to be cost prohibitive to us in our budget. So I understand what you're saying, but we were given a set of parameters at the beginning to fit it inside the current setbacks. We did that. If we go back now and try and redesign it to make the garage work, it's going to be several $1,000s more. That's going to prohibit our budget from building the house.
I get it.
So we went with this design because we felt it met with the tree removal being allowed for the garage, because there's no other place to put it, was what we thought would fit and work.
And I'm sympathetic to that. We did a huge redesign or remodel of our
understand the
house. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I get the question.
But anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, just more of a design question than anything else. The pitch on the roof, the main house has a fairly enhanced pitch. And then as you go to the garage, it has a very shallow pitch. I mean, it doesn't seem to kind of tie in with the main house.
Part of the reason that is, again, is where it's being placed, trying to raise the pitch on it, we're gonna run into issues with the trees that run along the setback of the creek, and also our neighbor has, on their side of their fence, they have several, I believe they're pine trees, tall pine trees. And my brother-in-law just so happens to be my insurance agent, who lives at the other house. And we talked about that, and we wouldn't be able to get insurance to write it because the trees are too close, and I can't require my neighbor to cut down his trees. So the idea was to drop the slope of the roof down to be able to accommodate that, to stay far enough away from the trees that the insurance agents will be happy.
No?
Me neither.
Okay. Then I'm going to go to the rest of the public comments. Thank you. All right, so we have one speaker card. If anyone else would like to speak on this item, please fill out one of these cards and bring it up to the desk. But you must be Susan Moore.
That's me.
All right.
So I have lived on Butner Road for 50 years. I remember the donkey that the street is named after, and I was one of the homeowners who advocated hard for the R20 zoning. So I have a big stake in it, and I am the property, we share a line, and the creek runs through my property. So I will tell you that they are good stewards of the trees. They care about the oak trees as I do. This house will fit in nicely. I also have a dark brown house, so the fact that it's dark, if it was light, it would look like a big mushroom in the middle of the field. This house is going to look nice, and it's going to be an enhancement to the neighborhood. And I know that they're taking the tree out only by necessity. This isn't just, oh, let's get rid of a tree. Where Butner Road enters Grayson, if you've driven down the street toward the cemetery, you know how much landscaping has been removed to put in 10 houses. This is one tree, and we have huge oaks along the creek. And this will not be detrimental to the neighborhood. It won't affect anything. And I was just telling Mr. Vincent that he could walk along the creek and find 20 oak trees that are easily as big as this podium from all the squirrels that have planted everything along there. So I understand that the city's requiring more planting, but you know, you're taking coals to Newcastle. So, okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right. This is the only speaker card I have. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Okay. Seeing no one, we'll close the hearing, bring it back to the commission for discussion.
I have no comments. I think that encroachment is acceptable, and they've studied every other option. And with the tree, I understand, I live in the same kind of community there. So they're replacing trees. They got the neighbor's permission. They did the due diligence. I have no comments outside of that.
I have no contention either.
And if there's another house that. Yeah, I'm okay with it, as long as there are other houses with the same color, it matches the surrounding neighborhood. And the only other one was the roof, but if there's genuine reason for the roof slope being shallower, I'm fine with it.
All right. And I understand it's expensive to take out trees. No one just wants to do it. But we also, you know, we have these projects come to us, other new houses, and I feel like we need to at least explore these issues. You know, if we say, oh yeah, whatever to taking out this tree, then the next person that comes and wants to do one, you know, it's like, well, why? We just have to explore the issue. And like I said, I think the planning commission, just be prepared to explain it in detail to them, what if one of them asks as well. So is there anyone who'd like to make a motion on this?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the CEQA exemption and the tree removal permit per the staff recommendations. Do we need to add anything?
I don't,
As stated, like,
as stated,
accept
that's
the,
fine.
yeah,
I don't think the commission had any additional conditions to present, no. Okay.
no,
So your motion is to go with the staff recommendation?
yes.
Second?
I will second that.
Commissioner Kapoor,
Yes.
Commissioner Patari,
Yes.
Commissioner Weir,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Nelson.
Yes. All right, good luck.
I'll follow up with you. All right. So you're gonna ask him why he abstained?
All yours, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item 5.2, the Shell Gas Station Signage and Exterior Improvements, ENT 2025-006 at 606 Contra Costa Boulevard. Can we get a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair Johansson, and welcome back.
Thank you.
This request tonight is related to the Shell gas station at 606 Contra Costa Boulevard. The applicant is proposing to make exterior modifications as part of a brand refresh of the gas station. This will include new fascia around all four sides of the fuel pump canopy, as well as new logo signs on that canopy. They'll be replacing the fuel pump graphic overlays, refacing some of the existing monument signs, changing the exterior building colors for the convenience store and car wash building on the site, and finally adding four new wall-mounted signs at the site. Quick background, this Shell service station has existed with the current style of architecture since 1989. Believe in 2003, and then again in 2020, the ARC approved exterior modifications. These modifications included similar design features, including the canopy fascia, the logo signs, building colors, and monument sign copy. Here's a look at the site on the southwest corner of Contra Costa Boulevard and Chilpancingo Parkway. The site has three different structures that we'll be looking at. One is the large canopy that spans across all of the fuel pumps. There's also a standalone convenience store that's partially located underneath the canopy. And you can see it there, centrally located from the canopy. And then on the southern side of the site, near the southern property boundary, is a separate car wash structure. I would also add that the two monument signs are, one's located on the northern property side near the intersection with Chilpancingo, and the second one's located just off of the main driveway. So here's some colored renderings of before and after, showing the existing conditions on the top and the proposed conditions on the bottom. The overall design of the canopy fascia isn't dramatically changing. It's more of an update or refresh. The logos are getting slightly smaller and they won't protrude as far away from the canopy structure as they do now. But all the colors are staying the same. And that red bar that you see also will continue to conceal an LED light band that will provide uplighting on the fascia. One minor change that the applicant added to their most recent plan set, but wasn't reflected in the staff report, is that all 4 sides of the canopy are proposed to be illuminated with that LED band lighting. In the past, the commission has expressed concerns about the quality of LED light banding, whether it would remain in place or if you've had any sort of irregularities in the light quality over time as the LEDs age. We've added that again as a discussion item in our staff report to see how the commission felt about that this evening. The gas station has had this LED uplighting, seems to be problem-free at this point. I'd also point out the monument sign there in the lower right-hand corner. They are maintaining the existing white color. In the staff report, they proposed changing it to a different color, but they have since decided to stick with the white color, but add the small little sign copy on the bottom right-hand corner that reads Rebel Wash. So that's part of the new branding, is to add the Rebel Wash car wash and convenience store. Here's some elevations of the canopy design and a section showing the logo. Everything complies with our sign ordinance for sign depth, height. It complies with many of our design guidelines for different margins and sign ratio. As I mentioned earlier, they are refreshing the graphic overlays on the fuel pump. So existing is on the left, proposed is on the right. The South Monument sign, which was hard to see in that picture, is largely remaining the same white color. They are evidently going to replace the LED lighting in there just to keep everything fresh. But there's no substantial changes to the look or the copy of that sign. Here's a detailed look at that Northern Monument sign. You can see the Rebel Wash copy, which will change out the Food Mart copy. Moving on to some of the buildings, the convenience store would get new exterior building colors, as well as 2 new wall signs or fascia mounted signs for Rebel. Another discussion item for tonight would be the new colors and the suitability or compatibility of this color scheme, the tan and light brown, juxtaposed against the canopy above it with the white background and the yellow and red highlights. And the sign detail, again, this sign is also compliant with our sign ordinance for sign area, sign depth, etc. Moving on to the car wash, similar to the convenience store, they're proposing new exterior colors, the tan color. There's a color sample board near Commissioner Kapoor that you guys can, there's 2 copies of the same color sample board. You guys can take a look at these colors. And you can also see the new signage for Rebel Wash on the north facing elevation, and they'll add an exit sign and an entrance sign at both the entrance and exits to the car wash. And here's a detail of that Rebel Wash sign, also compliant with our sign ordinance requirements. And enter and exit. So to wrap things up, as I mentioned, for discussion tonight would be the use of that concealed uplighting, the LED band lighting, and whether that the commission supports that, as well as the compatibility of the 2 proposed color schemes, one for the canopy and a second one for the convenience store and car wash. Staff's recommendation is that the commission review the proposal and provide direction on the issues raised. If the commission determines the project should be approved, staff recommends the commission accept the categorical exemption from CEQA and approve the architectural review and sign permit subject to the attached conditions of approval with any additional modifications. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
in one of the pictures of the canopy, the new color that is proposed, I'm imagining it's the cedar. Yeah, that, the one.
The canopy?
Yes, the next. Next. No, forward. We're going back. Here.
Mhm.
This, the bands and the colors that we're seeing, like there's no change in the definition of the band. It's just the way it's colored, right? Like it's just a,
Changing the definition of the band?
like there is no external fascia that is covering the, we can actually go to the next picture. It has more clear.
Are we looking at the canopy?
We're looking at the convenience store and canopy.
Oh, convenience store canopy, the
Yeah.
fascia on the convenience store? Yeah, my understanding is they're keeping the existing fascia, which you can see in white on the existing pictures, but
Yeah.
painting it. And then installing the sign, which would project away from the face of the fascia.
And same goes for the car wash, right?
Yes.
That's all.
Okay.
Was it shared whether the colors chosen for the Rebel portion of it or brand standards at all? Or was there any indication of how those colors were selected?
Yeah, those colors are brand standards for the Rebel brand. That's correct. Although with regards to the sign, I think the building colors, the applicant may be able to speak to it tonight. The building colors, I don't know are brand standards, because I've seen examples of Rebel buildings with slightly different colors.
So I think just a question on that itself. The colors that are on this Rebel Wash and the convenience store seem to be deviating quite a bit from the brand colors of the Shell station itself. I mean, I don't see a kind of correlation between the colors between the Shell station and the convenience store. So I'm just trying to get to the background as to why these colors were selected. Was it something else that was dictating these colors, or were just arbitrary decision?
I don't have more backstory than what I provided, but
Okay.
the applicant may be able to speak to that.
So my questions, kind of other things in the set, and maybe, and just want your feedback of staff on, about them. On both of the pictures of existing monument signs, there's this topping advertisement where it says 20% additional fuel discount. And it adds height to the sign. It adds lettering. How does the city view that? How do they what's the regulation around items like that?
So the city's, our view on it is that is additional signage that's really not permitted by the city. There's also window signage that you'll see in the
That was
convenience store
another one I
windows.
was gonna
So
ask.
we have a standard condition that the project has to comply with all of our ordinance regulations, some of which would be that you can't modify an approved sign without city approval. So those signs will have to come out of the windows and come off of the monument signs.
Okay, so moving forward, those would not be acceptable signage.
Not without an application
Okay,
including those
okay.
and approval.
Well, that was my,
And the applicant is aware of the window signs for the car wash and they're aware that those need to come out.
okay.
Yeah.
Those were my questions. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else before we, is the applicant here and would you like to share anything?
Hello, everyone. My name is Max. I work for the company that owns this location. I don't have anything specifically to add, but I'd love to try to answer some of these questions that I can. I'm not with our real estate department, I'm with our operations team, but I think I can give you kind of some background, especially to your question about why the store is a different color scheme so differently than the red, white, and yellow for the Shell. So in our business, we're a Shell wholesaler. So we wholesale gas, we sell it to others, but we also have our own locations where we sell it to customers. And so there's certain brand standards with Shell that you have to keep. And you guys all know Shell is a universal brand that's been around for 100 years. It's always had the same colors. Now, there's a lot of other stations out there that you'll see. Jackson's is another example of a company that I'll give where you'll see a Shell station, but Jackson's is, they have a red logo, but they have all kinds of different colored stores. And that's generally because in our business right now, C-store brands are trying to differentiate themselves from just the gas. Everyone in our industry is trying to get away from the food mart, and we're trying to build the destination around what our store is. And so Rebel is our new concept. We actually came up with that here in the last 5 years, and we're starting to roll that out across the country now. And so also on the color of the wall being brand standard, it is our brand standard. And so we try to stick as close to that color as possible. So hopefully that helps answer that. Great. Absolutely.
Anything else? No, any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, you could go if you.
I'm not able to articulate the thing that I'm wondering, and I don't know if this is for staff or the client, but I'm wondering whether Shell and Rebel are a single entity or they're separate in some kind of distinction, and just the color scheme. I understand that you mentioned that's a brand standard, but if they're the same company, the brand standard that has been adopted is so not in the color wheel of Shell. I'm trying to figure out how this is implemented in other places also.
Sure. And we have, I would point to our San Dimas location down in Southern California as a perfect example. It's our flagship store. I don't know if they provided any other pictures of any other locations, the real estate team. So in respect to us being separate entities, the way that it works is if you own a gas station, you can put any brand on the canopy if you go engage that particular partner and you pay them a wholesale contract fee. So pretty much Shell sells us the gas and we can use their brand to sell that gasoline. So Shell is a completely separate company than us. We are our own wholesaler. We could change away from Shell after the brand contract's up and turn it into a Rebel branded on the canopy and buy unbranded gasoline. But those contracts are very long-term. Some are 20 to 30 years. And so we are separate, but we do sell their gasoline with their additives.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So is Rebel then, so are there stations that are entirely the Rebel color scheme? So if you're not buying from Shell, and
We have
there's
two
there's a
locations.
Rebel convenience store, and then the canopy is what color, what brand?
Well, I believe we have two of those in Las Vegas, and those are both locations where we don't have a contract on the gasoline at the particular location, and they've gone unbranded. Another example of that that I can kind of point out is maybe like a Rotten Robbie around here. They're a completely unbranded wholesaler, so they don't have any deals with any particular large major oil companies like a Chevron, a Shell, anything like that. So you're going to see Rotten Robbie on their canopy, and then you'll also see it on their C-store. But in this particular type of deal where we have a wholesale contract with Shell that is, like I said, 10, 20, 30-year agreements, it's not something that we can just drop. the shell has to stay on the canopy to sell their gas. Or there's a massive shortfall penalty, which is yeah, something we can't. afford to
Why,
pay.
I don't, oh, is that picture of it? Okay.
I think it was,
Ye-
on a 2175 Marina Boulevard.
Oh, that's another location. Yes, yes. Here in Northern California, yes. That one was just completed last year.
Yeah, the picture.
Yeah.
And are those, I mean, do you happen, I mean, the picture, do you happen to know if they're the same? That those are the same colors that are being proposed for this location?
They should be. Like I said, it's a brand standard color. I'm not in our development department, so you can't quote me as it's
Mhm.
perfectly on, but I believe they're the same because we are trying to use our brand standard across the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
Well, I have to go in a couple of minutes, so I'll offer my comments, which, I mean, we're used to it matching, being the convenience store being white, which matches the rest of the Shell scheme. I'm just, wondering if this Shell champagne or Shell silver champagne that, is shown in here as part of being part of the Shell color scheme, which I guess was going to be, at one time was considered for the signs. That's what you said, right, Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder if the cedar could be replaced with that. Since that's part of the Shell brand and kind of ties things, and what the applicant said was they try to stick to it or close to it. These are similar.
Mhm.
So that's my one comment,
Should we ask the applicant?
if you want to.
We asked you one question. We have, so on the color board, there's two browns that are fairly similar.
Okay.
The question is, we understand we got shell colors on the bottom, Rebel on the top.
Yep.
In order to create a more uniform, could the Rebel brown be replaced by that and still make it work?
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
Okay, so if that would work if we
Yeah.
ask for that.
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue.
Okay. Thank you.
See you all.
That was gonna be my comment too. It just has a little bit of a cooler tone and I think it would blend a little bit better. And if on that first page, you look at the signage behind it for CarMax, I mean, that does have a warmer brown, but
Mhm.
I do just think that tone is a lot better.
And I'm glad you do bring that up because the CarMax sign that does protrude right above our business
Yeah.
does have a very, I want to say, similar color to that cedar.
A little
Mhm.
warmer.
Yeah. Yep.
My second, this is just a recommendation, but if you go to the car wash, it looks like the entire top portion of it is painted that darker tone. And it might be more, visible if the top part is actually painted the lighter tone. Andrew, I think it was in one of the last pages on the presentation.
Mhm.
And for us, it's page 11. I don't know if you guys would agree with that instead of just all being that dark tone.
Like it could be
More
the lighter
Contrast. like-
analytical gray.
Yeah.
Do you understand the comment?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, just so I can see it.
But there's an upper part of the car wash. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That way the band is just the,
And the band would stand out. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And we'll
Thanks.
figure it out. Okay. I think those are good suggestions.
I don't have a comment on the LED lighting. I can't remember if that was discussed with us or. was-
About having it on all four sides rather than just two.
Yeah. I'm fine.
I mean, they have controls, they've improved, there's timing and stuff associated with that, so I'm okay with it as well. as proposed.
I think you can control the intensity.
Mhm. Okay. Someone,
My only, so for this coloring the black, just that band with the darker shell silver champagne. My only concern would be that the bands are not of uniform height and depth. And I question whether they would achieve the effect or the uniformity that would come by like just going all dark to the top and like giving it a uniform one color block in the bottom and then one color block in the top. So that it doesn't,
doesn't highlight the
yes,
different planes.
yes.
Yeah.
However, I think like if it's acceptable to the petitioner that the shell silver champagne color be included in their rebel scheme, then lighting, this replacement color, and then what they have currently proposed is all looks good to me.
Would you like to make a motion, or do you guys need to hash it out? Or-
No, I think we both build a good case for either the band. So I would say dealer's choice on this. Just, yeah.
What do you think? Which one's preferable? Yeah, I think that provides more certainty on how it will end up, and I think I prefer that at this point. To do it as drawn, but with substituting the silver champagne
Yeah. With the cedar, yeah.
instead of the cedar.
From the cedar.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any comments or ideas about the concealed uplighting band that we have on the canopy?
I think I don't have an issue with it in that location. There's other places in town where there's single-family residential or residential in general on the sides, and that's not the case here, so. I think I'm okay.
The other question I had was, is there, as part of the landscape, is there any new landscape being proposed or just the existing landscape that's maintained?
Yeah, all of that's gonna stay exactly the same. There's no change for landscape.
Okay.
Okay, I can make a motion if we don't have any more comments.
Yeah, you can make a motion.
A motion to substitute the cedar rebel color scheme with the shell silver champagne and accept staff recommendations.
Someone like to second?
Commissioner Kapoor,
Yes.
Commissioner Patari,
Yes.
Commissioner Weir,
Yes.
and Chair Johansson.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Now move on to item 5.3, Kid Time Outdoor Play Area and Landscape Improvements, ENT 2024-0017 at 548 Contra Costa Boulevard. Commissioner Patari has recused himself from this item.
Perfect. All right, thank you. So the item before you tonight is an architectural review permit associated with Kid Time, proposing to locate at 548 Contra Costa Boulevard. The architectural review permit is for an outdoor play area and some landscape improvements on the site. And so just some background and context on the request. So Kid Time is proposing to operate a daycare and an event space in a total of 5,830 square feet. The daycare component will have 70 kids and 15 staff members. The event space is about 1,900 square feet. It's an active learning and event space for birthday parties, similar type events, with approximately 20 guests. So as I mentioned, there's an architecture review permit for that fenced-in play area that's just over 1,000 square feet, the landscape modifications. And then as part of that tonight, the ARC also needs to review some proposed privacy graphics, and I'll go into details of all of those. But because a use permit is ultimately required for both proposed uses, the Planning Commission will review this at a later date. And so we are asking the ARC tonight for a recommendation. So here's the site at 548 Contra Costa Boulevard. It's located within an existing shopping center. Where that yellow orange color star is the proposed space that Kid Time will operate. The tenant space or their proposed space will occupy 2 former tenant spaces. The adjacent tenants include CJ Saloon. There's an additional restaurant, and then Lamps Plus is a freestanding building across the center. So here's a proposed site plan. The applicant is proposing minimal changes to the building itself on the exterior. I'll go over the kind of storefront changes. The orange colored rectangle at the northern side of the building is where the outdoor play area will go. And then as part of the project, I'll go into the details, but they're eliminating some existing landscaping. And because the site is already under landscaped, they then had to mitigate that and replace that landscaping elsewhere, which is why the improvements to that median in the parking lot are being proposed. Here's an existing floor plan of the tenant spaces. So most of the work on the interior will be reviewed under the building permit for removal of some of the walls. As terms of exterior, they're removing the planter boxes along the northern facade to accommodate that play area. There's also landscaping that has to be removed on the right-hand side to accommodate an ADA path of travel. And then just some consolidation of storefront entrances and some minor modifications to the storefront. Here's what's proposed. So that outdoor play area you can see runs the length of the tenant space along the north, and then that new path of travel that is required to connect the outdoor play area to, but provide a path of travel from the outdoor play area is shown here. So going into details on the outdoor play area, the applicant is proposing a 6-foot tall redwood fence. There's a detail that was provided in the plans and shown here that will run along the entire length of the play area. With gates on either end for access. The fence design does feature a picture frame design, so it does have some vertical elements incorporated into it to help break up that long facade. And then in the play area itself, the ground surface, there'll be applied rubber playground tiles. And actually, I forgot I have a sample board we can pass around that shows some of these as well. And so that'll be applied in the playground or the outdoor play area. And there'll also be some elements in there that will be activities for the kids. One of the things that I wanted to point out that staff is looking for ARC's feedback on is, and maybe actually I'll go back to a site plan to explain this, that outdoor play area abuts the property line on the north, but also on the other side of that is a vehicular access easement. And so just because of the adjacency of the fence and the play area to the easement, staff has recommended a condition of approval that some sort of protective barrier be incorporated either into the fence design itself, whether that be a concrete curb, a concrete base, or some other solution that maybe the applicant wants to come up with that provides a similar protective barrier. And so the way that the condition is written right now is a little bit broad, that there just be some protective barrier included. And so we're looking for ARC's feedback on that element. So as I mentioned, the applicant is proposing to remove 410 square feet of landscaping. That's in the planter boxes on the north and then to accommodate that path of travel. And so because the site's already under landscaped, they are proposing to mitigate that by planting 496 square feet of new landscaping by expanding the planting in the median in the parking lot. So on that northern edge where those kind of crosshatch areas are shown, those are actually going to be new areas of that median. So they're essentially squaring off the median along that north side to accommodate that additional planting area and then are refreshing the landscaping in that median. I will mention that there's no changes to the parking lot, the number of stalls or the striping. And with this change, they are still able to meet our parking standards by doing the expanded median. And here's a little bit more detail of what plants will be incorporated into that. And so as part of this, they are proposing 7 new crepe myrtle trees, scattered throughout that area, and a mix of several shrubs that are consistent and compatible with some of the existing landscaping that's up there. And then finally, as I mentioned, there are proposing some privacy graphics. This is a daycare use, and so they are proposing this translucent film. I believe there's also a sample of that on the board being passed around on all of the storefront windows for the daycare use. This wraps both the east and the south elevations. The ordinance has a cap or requires a maximum of 30% of a storefront window be covered with any sort of either graphic or film, unless the ARC approves a deviation or an increase in that. And so part of the ARC's task tonight is to look at those privacy graphics and if covering more than 30% of those storefront windows is warranted. And so I'll just end with summarizing what the discussion items are tonight. The general just location and design of the outdoor play area and the fence, and whether that additional protective measures are warranted. Again, we've recommended a condition of approval currently. And so the ARC can take a look at that or suggest changes. And then the installation of privacy graphics that exceed 30% of the storefront windows. And then just the overall design of the proposed landscape plan. And with that, I'll say that staff is recommending that the ARC make a recommendation on the architecture review permit to the Planning Commission, subject to the attached conditions of approval. I'm here if you have questions, and the applicant is also here as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for staff?
Haley, can we go back to the recommendation, points of discussion?
Yep.
So if you could clarify for the privacy film that's being applied, the photograph that's been shared versus the illustration, like the dotted drawing, it goes bottom up for the privacy film. I'm wondering which one is it? Is it going bottom up and the top part is clear?
My understanding is that the elevation where the privacy film is applied from the bottom of the window up is what the applicant is proposing. That image is more just a sample of what it could look like, likely from a different space. But just given that it's a daycare use, that is my assumption, but I think it's also worth clarifying with the applicant.
Okay. And did I accurately hear that the goal is to cover 30% of the storefront?
Our ordinance allows tenants to cover up to 30% with any sort of opaque film or even window coverings, with the ultimate goal in our commercial zones to allow for visibility into storefronts. But there's a caveat that says the Architecture Review Commission can approve additional covering.
Okay. But the proposal is currently for what percentage is?
I'll be honest, I didn't calculate the exact percentage. It's everything besides the entry door. It's all of the windows.
Okay.
But if you were to net out, I guess that very top portion, it's going to be under less than 100%, but definitely more than 30.
Got it. And is there a distinction between the active learning and event space versus the school?
Yes, so if you look, go back to floor plan. The rooms on the left-hand side,
The two art rooms?
yes, those are what will be used for the event spaces.
So I didn't see a moving or collapsible partition, and I was trying to add up the total square footage of like what was shown for the event space in the beginning versus the school space. So I wasn't sure how the event space was going to be used. So one of the questions I definitely had coming in was about there's a main entry that opens into a reception as well as a community preschool entrance that's towards the right. And then there are two doors that open separately to both the art rooms. And through the school, they're connected through one of the preschool rooms. So if there was anything additional to understand how the space was going to be used?
Yeah, so maybe I can clarify, and then I also think this would be a good question for the applicant. In their project description that they submitted, the daycare use is going to be Monday through Friday use, and then the event space is for weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, and then some holidays. And so the intent would be that they would not be operational at the same time. Because it involves the interior, planning does not get too involved with the use of the space. Obviously, the use permit is what will, the planning commission will decide on. And so I don't know if portions of those will be used for anything during the daycare component, or if they will remain empty. We can ask the applicant that.
I see a kid's restroom, a janitor's closet, and a food prep area behind the two art rooms. So it definitely feels like there's going to be usage through the week, Monday to Friday, while the school is operational in that area. But I don't know if like children will be going in these spaces. However, there is a hand wash area outside, so I'm guessing they will be. And
Yep.
it is art room 1 and 2. So and is there a picture or illustration of the sandbox and water play area that has been included in the north?
There's not. The only images were this of the ground material, that floor mat.
Okay, thank you.
With regards to sort of the protective, what did you call it? The protective barrier on the west side, I believe. Does the city have a standard or recommendations for that, like specific recommendations? Or what would be the process if we were to approve?
So the way that the condition of approval is written currently is that they just provide some sort of protective measures at that interface between the play area and the adjacent vehicular easement to the satisfaction of the zoning administrator and the city engineer. And that's written in such a way because as I mentioned, there's options. It could be a curb, it could be a concrete base, it could be bollards. But obviously, if the Architecture Commission has a preference, we can also write in a more specific condition.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? What?
No, those are my
No more questions.
Oh,
Good.
one more for me. I know this is extra credit and might be next, but signage colors.
So signage was not included with this application. There is a master sign program at the site. So if they propose signage that complies, that can just be done with a sign permit at staff level.
Gotcha. My questions are for the applicant, so I'll hold.
Is the applicant here, or would you like to share with us this evening?
Hi, I'm the applicant, Leah Rosenthal Cambic, on behalf of Kid Time, and I'm happy to clarify some of your questions and answer everything I can. Do you want me to answer right now about the event space?
Thank you.
So our vision is that we would use those two rooms as active art rooms during the week while we're in school. That's why we wanted the doorways from the preschool classrooms, so they can go right in there, do their artwork and make their messy stuff happen, and then go back into their classrooms. And then on the weekends, we would use that space for birthday parties, not the preschool side, only the two art spaces. So they can enter through the front door and not go into the other side of the building. And that would just be a weekend only.
And the intent is always to use these from through the preschool from inside, like the children would not exit to the outdoor in the
Right.
north and then go outside and then come back in.
They would be able to enter the art room through the doorways that we create, or from the back, from the north side, from the playground.
Also,
There'll be an outdoor.
it's either or.
Yes, but not through the front. The front, they would stay. They would not go out the front doors.
And could you speak to the water play and sandbox area a little bit? I'm not clear on what kind of water play is included.
Sure. At different sites, we do it differently, but we build a pretty large sandbox for the children to play in. And at a couple of our sites, we have a water feature on the inside. I'm not sure what the rules would be and regulations would be with that, if there are specific things we would need to do. But that's kind of an additional, the water is an additional. But we have, built like a little table with faucets and things like that, where that's inside the sandbox, so the kids can play with water in the sandbox as well.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a preferred solution for the back fence and reinforcing that or making it
Yeah, I think
meet the standard?
our preference would be anything that takes up the least amount of space into, obviously, behind the north side or into the playground. So the concrete block, concrete curb, I think might be the best option. Is that what you're talking about on the
Yes.
north side? Yes. And I'm not an expert in that, but whatever would take up the least amount of real estate, so the kids have the most play space and we're not encroaching behind.
Do you guys have any concerns with the amount of traffic that's going behind there with Pep Boys? And I mean, there's cars in and out all day.
We really don't. We've had 2 traffic studies done and they did not express any concern. It's usually actually that access behind is usually fairly quiet. They go through the Pep Boys area, but the easement, I haven't seen a lot of activity there. So yeah, that hasn't been a concern.
And then my question around landscaping, just replacing the 400 or so square feet in the median. I'm assuming that like required landlord approval. So have you worked with the landlord?
Yes, we have that.
About the privacy film that's added to the front, do you have an estimate on how much coverage you're expecting?
I wouldn't be able to give you a percentage. What I would say is we would definitely bottom up, to answer your earlier question, because the kids are down there. And I would say even if it just went up to 6 feet so that there's still some sunlight coming in, that would be great to still have light and visibility through above 6 feet. But that would be our preference, I think.
So if it like aligned with the top of the door or something,
Yeah.
that would be enough.
Yes,
Okay.
just as long as it's taller than humans, so no one's coming in peeking in the windows.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. We've seen similar facilities that have seemed like not not provided that.
I've seen some with and I've seen some without, and it doesn't feel good to be able to look right in those windows and see kids.
Yes.
Did you discuss or even consider using, I'm going back to the fence now in the rear, using like a metal, solid metal fencing of some sort?
We really didn't. That never came up in our plans. All of our other sites that we've built fencing around have all been that overlapping wood fencing. And, it looks nice and it holds up and it's, I think it feels less industrial than like
Yeah.
you're penning them in this metal space. So I think just for the way it looks would look better.
You can do a combination of metal posts and wood panels kind of thing. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
No other questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, bring it back to the commission for discussion. So we have the landscape, we have window film, and we have the back fence. Those are kind of the main things.
I'll start with the privacy film. I don't take issue with the exception there, covering a little more than 30%, which maybe might be 75
Mhm.
in total, it looks like,
I think
especially with children.
I think maybe bringing it down to where the height of these double doors.
For the sake of uniformity as well as like, we're not expecting preschool kids to be
Yeah.
6 feet tall.
I imagine there's also film on the doors. And that's not shown currently in the plan, but there's.
Eh.
No? On the
Glass
double,
doors?
on the double glass doors? Would you want to have film there? Yeah, okay. I mean, it's not shown on the plan. Okay,
And it looks like the art room doesn't have any film. That one's a little more open, just for more visibility into parties and.
okay.
Oh, you want that there?
They want it there. So all the way across. Makes sense.
In regards to the fencing, I am good with the 6-foot-high redwood fence. I do think incorporating more metal or some sort of sturdier structure. And also with the engineer and the zoning recommendation of a protective barrier, just to avoid any sort of issues that could happen.
Yeah, I think there could be the curb. I think there could be metal posts.
Yeah.
I think there could be metal posts that are maybe a little closer together than what's shown here. Just some ideas. I'm not sure. I feel like with bollards, you'd be taking away some of their outdoor area because you'd have to push it back in, which if there's a solution to make that integral, like if the post can be the bollard and the spacing works, then maybe there's a way to do it that way, along with the curb.
What would be the, sorry, I thought I was done with my questions. What would be the impact if you push back the play area a little bit further from the front of the building? And the only reason I say that is because I drive that street a ton and I see cars bang-a-rang around, like they zoom in and zoom out by Lambs Plus. And so that corner is like, that kind of gives me some heart pause just in case.
So you're talking about not the north side, but the east side? Yeah. I mean, it's not ideal because it isn't a lot of space to begin with. If that were required, obviously we would make it work, but we wanted to squeeze out as much playground as we possibly can. It's going to be long and thin, so.
I wonder if you'd almost extend, you got the path with a curb, take that curb all the way out to the fence, square it off, And that would protect, I mean, you could even put a bollard there at the corner if you did that. That makes sense?
I would recommend a bollard at the corner.
So if that, like, the landing out the gate was extended to the fence line, and then there was the curb went around that, and there's a bollard at the corner.
I think we would definitely prefer that to shortening the actual play area, putting a
But is
bollard there
that
makes
within the
sense.
property line?
It's within their property line. I mean, you have to work with Public Works to make sure all the turning radiuses and whatever would still work.
I mean, there haven't been any incidents there that I even recall the last 30 years, but it was a mattress store before, so it wasn't hired.
But there could certainly be a bollard somewhere at that corner to protect it.
That would satisfy.
Good idea.
Or my concern.
Are there other things?
And I, landscaping, I have,
Landscape.
take no issue with that.
I actually think the landscaping that's been proposed is a really good job.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the effort to meet the standard.
It's mindful, it's detailed, it's clean.
Okay, so we have the window film. Maybe bring it down a little bit to like the 7 feet or whatever the top of that door is. Bring it all the way across the doors, across the art rooms.
I was wondering whether it's okay to leave the doors on screen.
I mean, they could also do some sort of window treatment on them.
Right,
That could be rolled up or something on a party day or.
right, like, for the, and also this is in relation with the layout that I'm seeing. That there's not a lot of activity exposure risk that would be borne if the doors were not fitted with the privacy film. Because, so this is a reception area and I don't imagine like children's activity happening here, or like they're moving in places. And the rest of it is pretty screened off.
I mean, they call it community preschool. So what's the function of community preschool?
It would be a space they'd be
I
playing in,
imagine like
so
circle time or something and
That's right.
mixing of
Okay.
classes or.
it's another classroom. So yeah, I would say that door should be covered.
Mhm.
The art studio side, actually, the way it's situated, you wouldn't have direct, vision of people sitting at tables or whatever. You wouldn't, there's kind of some walls in the way, so that might be fine. But I think with the preschool side, we would want to cover that door,
Okay,
which if it's not okay and we can do a window treatment, that would also work.
This is just an idea, but, and again, we haven't seen a signage package, but if it was some sort of signage, vinyl or decal covering most of it, maybe even framed in the door, you wouldn't need that. With maybe like a 6-inch exposed clear trim, you might not need that.
Gets into
Full panel.
Sign program and whether or not that's an
Yeah.
option. That's a whole nother.
It is, I
Yeah.
know, I know, I was thinking like a tenant. I do this for my day job too.
I do like that idea. If that were kosher, we would like that.
those are my questions. I think we're,
No, I think could make a recommendation. to
Yeah,
the
so it
plan.
sounds like we're good with the window film.
Mhm.
Where do we land on the door?
so the two art rooms can go without screens, but I don't think it's, if this is a community, like if this room
I
is
would-
being used as
As a
a
school.
active part of the school activity, then yes, screen it uniformly as the rest of the windows.
I would give them the option to do all of them.
Yeah, they, you did mention the
And
art
if
rooms
they
will be
choose
used.
not to, they can always choose not to for specific doors.
Agreed.
Yeah, I worry about too much opacity, but I don't think just two doors without screens is going to change that too much either. So um, if the consensus is towards giving them the option, I'm fine with that.
And good with the landscaping and good with the
Fine.
fence, as long as there's some.
Just with that additional recommendation of extending that out with a bollard on a larger landing so that there is buffer.
Mhm.
But that with the staff's approval of like whether or not we're within these guidelines.
Zoning and engineer.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we discussed metal posts in the fence, curb. Those are just recommendations and they can be mentioned to planning commission as needed. Okay. Would one of you,
Can that be taken as a motion or somebody needs to articulate it?
I need someone to articulate a motion, yes.
Okay, I'll give it a go. I make a motion to approve, recommend, thank you. See, look, it's been a while since March. To recommend, we agree with the recommendation of installing privacy graphics from the floor, up to the height of the door, with the 3 doors being optional. And a recommendation, with alignment with the landscaping plan to replace, what was existing with the median. And the third part is the, rear exterior play area. We recommend that the zoning engineer, provide some sort of, protective barrier, as well as extending out the northeast corner of the property to include a larger protective barrier like a bollard.
If I could just clarify, it would be, is it either to provide a bollard or extend the landing, or is it both?
I think it could be either.
Okay.
Either.
Good job.
Someone needs a second.
I second.
Okay. Commissioner Kapoor,
Yes.
Commissioner Weir,
Yes.
and Chair Johansson.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Hey,
Good luck.
thanks. I can see, moms going to drop their kids off and going to Home Goods and Starbucks, or dads. Yeah, oh, no. We listen and we don't judge.
Okay. I'll move on to staff communication.
I don't have anything specific for you guys tonight.
Okay, I mean, I'll just share with you guys that I'm going to be terming off this summer at some point and we'll be moving on. So maybe I'll see you in June. Then, I don't know. We can talk if there's any need to continue on for till it's filled or whatever.
Okay.
If that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay. That's it. Meeting adjourned.